Thank you so much for joining me for this week's Curious Conversation. My name is Alice. I run Wool and Water, an unexpected knitwear label. I make wearable conversation starters. This is one of my skinny ties. And if you know public service broadcasting, if you know J. Willgoose, a god amongst men, you will know that he always dons a bow tie for every performance. And I'm very proud to say that I think 95% of the time they are made by me. So I'm delighted that he's going to join me for a curious conversation. I see he is here, so I'm going to bring him straight in. Let's see, this is like fifth time lucky. Hey, we made it!
I'm going to risk turning on my Bluetooth headphones because I thought that might be what we're doing it. So just a sec.
Okay, I was just thinking this might not work.
Yeah, that would have been typical for anything involving me.
But this is terrific. Right. I think it built up a nice anticipation.
Yeah.
So, hello.
Can you hear me all right? Because I think this thing has a microphone on it. Yeah, good.
Yeah,
okay.
I can hear
hello.
you. And everyone down here will tell us on the comments if they can't. But anyway, hello. Welcome to a curious conversation. How are you?
Hooray. I'm all right. Thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's a pretty rainy, miserable day here in Amsterdam, but yeah, I'm pretty good. I've been knitting away today.
It's grey here, but I think I prefer that to 32-degree heat we had a couple of weeks ago. So there you go.
And I can vouch that knitting in that type of heat is really difficult. So yeah.
Yes, I can imagine.
So how I have seen you guys have been, and I assume you in particular, have been incredibly active on Twitter during this whole genre where the world's turned into a science fiction movie. You've had like listening parties, you merchandise, you've done sort of auctions and like all sorts of things, right?
Yeah, we did a few things. I think the first thing we did was try and raise some money for our crew right at the start of the lockdown, because we realised that they were going to be looking at quite a severe stretch without any meaningful work. So we sold a load of test pressings, and we've got a very dedicated and very generous fan base, and thankfully we managed to raise a really good sum for them. And other stuff, yeah, we did an online pub quiz, which was technically challenged as well in a few places, and that raised some money for bowel cancer. And yeah, Tim Burgess from the Charlatans got in touch and wanted us to do a couple of the listening parties, and we were really happy to do those. So yeah, hopefully not been annoying people too much with our relentless spamming of their feeds, but there you go.
No, I think it's been great. It shows how everyone's had to get creative, right? And under these restrictions, and obviously for people like yourself, what do you anticipate being what's the sort of near and far future, do you think?
Well, no gigs in the near future. That's I think everyone would have realised that by now. You did see a load of people rescheduling shows for September and October, but I mean, even in March that looked wildly optimistic. But now I think it just looks, extremely unlikely. Even more extremely unlikely than it did back then. I think we were supposed to record our new record in May and June, and we couldn't, so we've put that on hold. I've been kind of tinkering away with some side project business, and we're hopefully going to record the record in late August, early September. We've got some new dates booked in, but whether we'll be able to do it is another question.
Yeah. How do you rehearse socially distance, and what are the logistics of that?
I think we would have to just rehearse in a room and try and not see anybody for a couple of days before or afterwards. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really doing anything anyway. You know, we don't have any reason to go anywhere besides walking the dog. So yeah, it's not like I'm kind of out socializing a lot. So I don't think that should be too much of a challenge. It's more because the recording is in another country and we'd have to get there. That's the big kind of headache at the moment.
Right, I'm with you. Okay. And how have you found, I mean, obviously the initial part of lockdown, very stressful. Did you find that you got into a space of feeling kind of creative amongst it, or was it a bit paralyzing?
No, I found it very difficult to be creative, but at the same time, I found that whenever I did make the effort, I always felt better afterwards, and actually coming out of the studio after a few hours, you almost felt normal. So it was a release, but it was also a release that you kind of had to work really hard to kind of activate, I suppose, because most of the time it was a bit paralyzing. But yeah, it's been ups and downs. I think a lot of people have had the same experience. They've had some times where they think they're getting on all right, and other days when they're they're struggling, and that's been the same for us here.
Yeah, I think that everyone who I've spoken to, no matter what you do or yeah, or what the issues facing you are, that definitely seems to be the case. Everyone's had their days of being like, I've had days where I'm like, this is quite cozy actually, and then literally like that afternoon or the next day, I'm like, I have to get out. This is so restrictive. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a strange old situation, but yeah, it's slowly finding a new normal here in Amsterdam. What's the
Hmm.
vibe? What's the vibe there? Is there a new normal there?
The vibe is incompetence and and ignorance and denial. I think that's the general vibe. Um,
Okay, that's cool.
yeah.
I'm down with that vibe.
Well, yeah, you don't really want it in your government, I don't think. I mean, on a personal level, perhaps. Yeah.
No, no, no.
Um,
Yeah, I'm being sarcastic. Yeah.
yeah, I think. Yeah, I think. I think most people are kind of. It's almost like people and businesses started shutting down before the government actually told them to over here. I think a lot of people are kind of taking matters into their own hands and being cautious if they need to be cautious, and if they feel a bit more able to kind of resume as much of a normal life as they can. I think they're kind of starting to be more free to do that, which you could, playing devil's advocate, you could argue that's a good way of doing it. I think we'd just like to be maybe at a lower base of daily cases. Like if you look at the numbers in Scandinavia and Germany, they seem quite manageable, whereas ours are still, you know, ours on a low day is what theirs on a very high day is, which is a little bit concerning.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So let's move from this the movie that we're all living. That's our new reality. Um, Tell me about you and bow ties. Like when did
Hmm.
it come about you wearing a bow tie on stage? How did that?
It's yeah, it's been from the very first public service broadcasting gig. It was part of the kind of the the well, I don't want to call it a look because that's kind of giving it too much. It's almost giving it too much weight. But it was part of the idea for I was initially tinkering around with this idea in my bedroom basically, um, and then started to think maybe you could do it live. How would you do it? What would that look like? What would the person who's playing it look like? And it's a lot of kind of digging through old archive material. It's a lot of quite nerdy stuff. And I thought it's probably going to be somebody who looks like he was an open university lecturer in the 70s, lots of corduroy, bow tie, thick rimmed glasses. These are slightly thinner than I started out with actually, but yeah, that was the kind of the thing. I think Robin Day was the benchmark for the look. Lots of people thought Doctor Who, but I was doing it before Matt Smith. Tell you that for nothing.
Yeah, you were.
Uh,
That's true.
yeah. So yeah, it kind of gives an air of rumpled intelligentsia, which I think I was after.
And does it play a role in making you feel confident to be on stage? Like it must feel like a kind of not a costume as such, but is it something that you wear in your own life? I mean, I see, thank you, that you are donning, I think, the
Hmm.
Fitzgerald, if I look closely.
Don't know the names, I'm afraid. Sorry, but yeah,
No, it's
it's
quite all
that
right.
one.
Yeah, that's the Fitzgerald. Yeah,
Very
inspired
nice.
by
It's my
Mr.
favourite
Great
one, I think.
Gatsby. Oh, I'm glad to
Hmm.
hear that. But yeah, does it play a role in giving you confidence to get on stage?
Um, maybe there's some small element of routine or yeah, something like that. I suppose part of your getting ready to go on. In reality, I've left it too late, and I'm desperately trying to do up the bow tie with about 20 seconds to going on stage. So it's not necessarily the most calming pre-show routine often. And when we were touring the Race of Space, I went through a period of. I mean, don't ask. You look back on these things and wonder what on earth was going through your mind. But it went through a period of wearing like a glitter ball jacket and bow tie, and changing that in the gap between going off and coming back on. That was stressful as well. Yeah, but yeah, it gives you a bit of armor, I suppose. If you know that I'm not playing a part because I'm not skilled enough to do that, but it's some kind of persona that you're presenting on stage, and it gives you a little bit of like a veneer to kind of ward off any too encroaching thoughts of self-doubt. They still get in, but it's like a teeny layer of protection.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally get that. Do you think you would ever consider wearing like a t-shirt and jeans, or is this very much?
I don't, not in public service broadcasting. No, no. We've got standards. We need to uphold them.
Yeah, yes, you do. Yes, and I'm very grateful to it too.
Don't look at Wrigglesworth for that. I mean, some of the things he's tried to sneak on stage. Yeah, we won't talk about those.
And I was looking back over your interview. So originally, you very kindly, I think you were one of the first. You did one of my first Curious interviews, which is on my blog, still there, which was in 2016. That seems so. It doesn't feel like that should be that long ago. But obviously, in that interview, I asked you questions about your inspiration and your curiosity and your creativity. What would you say that you are curious about today?
I don't want to pay myself an enormous compliment and say everything, as if I'm some kind of huge mind sponge who just, absorbs information from everywhere. But I genuinely think, in a general answer to that question, almost anything, if you look at it closely enough, becomes interesting. So, I'm trying to read a bit more at the moment. I'm trying to kind of broaden my reading. I asked for recommendations on books about economics because I don't know anything about it. So I've been trying to get my head around some of that kind of stuff and just vaguely educate myself, and also reading about quantum mechanics at the moment, which is way above my my pay grade. Just stuff, my interests are very broad ranging and kind of quite wide. Ironically enough, some of the stuff that we've ended up covering hasn't really been like a personal passion, like the World War II material. I think a lot of people kind of assume, because of the amount of time and effort that would have gone into producing that EP, that I was a massive World War II history buff or something, or had a burning passion for Spitfires. But it was more just a kind of exercise in writing something more serious with knowing that there was that much material to use. So my personal interests aren't always represented by what the band is doing and what we're kind of putting out there, I suppose.
And how do you find the pieces? Like, what sparks the inspiration for a new EP or album or single?
I don't really know. Like, I've been trying to work out for a long time, I've been trying to work out what the inspiration for the next record was, where it started and what was behind it. And in the end, the record itself is turning into that question kind of writ large. It's like, why are you writing this record? Almost, you're writing a record to explain why you're writing a record, which kind of snake eating its own tail a bit. But it's often very hard to kind of put your finger on the initial kind of burst of creativity or burst of inspiration. And I think one of the things you do if you do a lot of interviews is you end up kind of making up a story that sounds, or kind of semi-remembering a story that sounds good, and then you've just said it about 10 times, so you just kind of start believing it a little bit, and you just get used to saying it. And then you kind of 2 years down the line, you remember something totally different happened, and that gave you the idea to do something. Oh God, yeah, I should have mentioned that the whole time. But creativity is a very odd beast, and it strikes at very odd times. And I don't keep a diary or anything, so it's hard for me to know how I've got myself into the various messes that I've got myself into.
But see, I have an image of you like scrolling through banks of archival footage and sort of, I don't know, going down like a proverbial rabbit hole. An archival footage YouTube rabbit hole. Is that not how it happens? It's
never really been like that. No, I think that would kind of be putting the cart before the horse. I would normally use a more earthy metaphor. You put the cart before the horse. That's a recipe for wasting loads of time, I think. What I try and do is just have I don't know, I've always got like a basic idea about the structure of a record or what I want to write about in general, and then I start reading about it, and the reading is what kind of lays the framework for the whole thing, and then you go about trying to fit things in and kind of build the structure to kind of hold the ideas that you're hoping to put out there.
So there might be a quantum mechanics album coming.
I was going to make a really lame attempt at a quantum mechanics joke, but I'm not skilled enough. So
that would definitely go way over my head.
I'm not going to say no. There's a cloud of possibility. There you go. There's a cloud of possibility.
I'll accept really that
for sure. Yeah.
Could you tell me? I mean, maybe I'm the only one, but what is quantum mechanics?
Oh God, don't put me in the spot like that. Crikey, I'm trying to look clever here.
What's the thing that first made you interested in it? I mean, I didn't even know there was a term of quantum mechanics.
Well, I read a book. I was just in a bookshop and saw that. I think a lot of people have read it, like Popular Science, 7 Short Lessons on Physics, I think it's called, by Carlo Rovelli. And I read that, and then this is his kind of more full explanation of what it's the path to quantum gravity. So I haven't even got to quantum gravity yet, and I'm still confused by quantum mechanics. So in his defense, he says that nobody really understands it. So having read 100 pages of a book, I think I'm within my rights to not understand it at all. But there are a couple of very interesting concepts, like on a most basic level, an electron, you can't actually pinpoint where an electron is until it collides with something else, and you can't predict the path it takes to get there. You just have a kind of network of possibilities. So it's kind of, the book is called Reality is not how it seems, or not what you think it is, and it's kind of, it is about this, at the very smallest level, there's some really weird stuff going on, and our perception of reality and our perception of what makes the world how it is very different from how it actually is, which is quite eye-opening, obviously.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could add that onto my reading list for sure if there's a version for dummies. We have a book here that somebody gave our little girl. Is it Gravitational Force for Babies? Honest to God, that took me three readings myself just to be like, oh, okay, I think I'm getting this. So yeah, that might be a bit.
Yeah, I don't understand many things. I don't understand, because they say, the sort of the famous Einstein theory is that gravity is kind of, it's a distortion of space and time, and actually if you were to look at a kind of 3D grid of the sun, it's bending space and time around it, and that's what's kind of creating the gravitational force, I suppose, that makes it. Well, I don't understand why that doesn't, if something's orbiting something else on a tilt, they use the anagram of like, a ball going around a funnel, but a ball doesn't just go around a funnel forever, it goes down the hole, like they haven't really explained that. I'm a bit confused. Yeah.
But I love that. So you literally, anything that you find confusing or identify that you don't know about, that sparks your curiosity to learn more.
Yeah, I mean, there are limits. There are some things I definitely don't find interesting, but there's always new areas to feel totally ignorant in. There's always old areas to feel totally ignorant in. So there's never a shortage of kind of, there's never a shortage of interest. There's never a shortage of reading material either. I think reading is really the key. A lot of people with the band assume that so much of it is watching or listening to stuff, and actually the thing that's been the most key for all 3 albums, and certainly the next record, is a fundamental of reading, and I'm kind of getting an understanding of the whole subject, and the framework comes from that rather than watching YouTube videos, I suppose. That's
so interesting, because I definitely wouldn't have anticipated that, and it does sound like you should probably run a book club alongside each album.
Yeah. We are thinking of doing a podcast for the next record, purely because we're white middle-aged men. We need one, clearly. Everyone needs one.
I don't think that voice is heard enough, to be honest with you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we need representation, so we're trying to get out there, get our cause heard. No, but just to kind of do a bit of a better job of explaining some of the stuff behind it, especially because the next record is a bit more abstract and maybe slightly less narrative, I suppose. So it might help to sort of try and explain what I was trying to do and probably failing.
And it also might spark some interesting conversations.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the person I can get to sort of co-interview, because I can certainly interview him and take some of his expertise, and hopefully, he could ask some interesting questions. If I could get him on board, it would be as interesting for me as for the listener, hopefully.
And who was that? Are you keeping that one to yourself? Okay, fair enough. I don't want you to spill any secrets, but no, I think that sounds like that would be a really interesting thing, particularly a podcast, to sort of delve into some of the themes or topics that the album. I mean, I think that would be super interesting. Do you listen to a lot of podcasts yourself?
No, hardly any. I don't know. I never seem to have time. Like we always, my wife's always recommending podcasts to me, and I kind of just go, great. I don't know when I'm going to listen to it, but thanks. I should be more grateful than that. But I never seem to make time. I think the only time I really listen to podcasts is driving, which I haven't done a great deal of lately, and in the bath, which also I haven't done a great deal of lately because I haven't had time. So yeah.
So, and what do you do to be creative? Like, obviously, there's the music, and then there's the reading, as you're saying. You know, following their curiosities, learning about quantum mechanics, and so on. And what do you do to be creatively fun? Like, it's not for the band. What do you do that is just for you to play?
I think that is a really good question because, you know, this was my hobby. This is what I poured all my creative energy in outside of, you know, full-time work, and it was my distraction and it was the thing that kind of kept me sane. And then, you know, I was extremely lucky that my hobby became my job, but then you're doing your job and you realize that you don't really have a hobby anymore. And you don't really fully know how to relax. You know, I can always play the guitar, and that is a very consistent, solid way of just being in another place and just relaxing, kind of taking your mind off things. But it's still semi-tied to, you know, to my profession now. I'm not complaining, but it is kind of, it is something you need to be aware of, I think, and remember that you are a person outside of what it is that you're doing. You know, I'm a boring middle-aged man, so I've taken up quite a keen interest in gardening. That's probably.
I don't think that's boring at all.
Yeah.
I think that's great. As somebody who's also started, you know, being at home much more, I've got much more into my garden. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that's boring at all. I think that's a great idea. But yeah, it is
Well,
strange when your hobby does become your main
the
focus in
exact
your
same thing
job.
happened to you, didn't it? With, you know, knitting on set, and then kablamo, here you are.
Yeah, yeah. But maybe I'm the same as you, that I'm kind of lucky that I still have that complete addiction to it. That I know that my
Hmm.
husband finds it really strange. I can be in here working for 12 hours and then go sit through with him and watch something, but pull out a sock that I'm knitting or whatever, you know. And yeah, I don't know, it's a weird thing, isn't it? But I have recently been introduced to the idea of just making something for the sake of it, and just kind of
Hmm.
uh, you know, a different medium, playing again with actually Unruly Print, who is right here. So yeah, I did wonder if that's something you do. Do you have like do you do covers of, you know, stuff that's just for you, just fun, when you are twiddling on the
Other people's
guitar?
songs.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've
just
been trying to. Been trying. I have learned actually. I should give myself credit. I've learned the acoustic version of Sound of Silence, and I've been trying to make sure it goes in. I find I can remember nearly everything I learned as a 16-year-old on the guitar, and a lot of it has not much relevance for me anymore. Like I don't really need to be able to play the guitar solo to Columbia by Oasis. It's a good solo, but I don't. You know, it's not.
yeah.
It doesn't connect with me the way it did. And the more I learn these days, you know, unless you play it nearly every day for about 6 months, it just goes. So. Yeah, that I tried to learn "Never Going Back Again" by Fleetwood Mac on the guitar. That is really hard. I can get about 85% of the way there, but there's always a few fluffs. Yeah, I don't cover you know, I don't play as many other people's songs as I should do because I've got so many songs out of doing that. You know, I remember trying to learn a Grizzly Bear song, and it's in such a weird tuning. You put the guitar in that tuning, all of a sudden everything's changed. You know, you can play the same chord shapes, but the sound's different. And I ended up writing 3 songs in that tuning. So, you know, just out of 5 minutes of trying to learn this song that you like. So I really ought to do more of that. But yeah, there you go.
But there you go. Yeah, so maybe that's what you'll spend a bit more time on. And now the other question I wanted to ask you was about conversation. Have you found that during lockdown that you have been having more conversations? You were saying how busy you've been, but has that
Um,
lent itself to having, you know, I found that a lot of people are sort of reaching out to people they haven't spoken to for a while, or end up speaking more to the people who were in their life.
I found at first that the instinct and the inclination was to do that, and I genuinely thought I was going to be ringing people every day and having great chats and stuff. And I think for the first week or two, you know, that was more the case than it is now. But generally, as time went on, I think I ran out of energy for it, and I think a lot of people seem to do the same thing. They kind of just gradually retreat into their shell. Um, And I think those are the days that became hardest to deal with, because you need to make yourself kind of have that connection with people, and yeah, often just didn't really feel in the mood. There's still at least 2 or 3 really good friends who I haven't spoken to for the whole period, and we've both just kind of flaked out at various points just because we're not really feeling up to it. But yeah, I think that's quite common. I think.
Have you noticed then, has it been more of a lack of conversation in your life? Like, would your life normally involve chatting with people more?
I mean, people listening to this might find it hard to believe I'm not the most, is loquacious, is that the word? Verbose.
Yeah.
Not the most verbose. You know, I tend to listen more than I speak, I think, especially in a kind of large group environment. I don't tend to kind of hold court, I don't think. Possibly other people give you a very different version of that and tell you that I'm a rampant egomaniac and don't let anyone else get a word in. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, I suppose, is the answer to the question. I think, yeah, listening is more of a skill for me than conversation, possibly.
Hmm. It's funny, isn't it, that that's so common, and yet a lot of people find that strange, that if you are somebody who performs, gets up on stage, people often think that you, when you're off stage, you would still be the, seize the room and be the center of attention. And yet actually it's often quite opposite.
Yeah, and in fact, on stage, I don't really want to do that either. You know, I don't think. I remember when I left my job and was on the verge of leaving my job, and I'd made some comment to somebody about, that everybody kind of puts their own expectations on you in terms of the lifestyle that they think you're going to lead if you're leaving work to become a musician. And you get a lot of comments that are very tongue in cheek, but there is a nugget of kind of truth underneath it all. And you do get these little niggly kind of accusations of being some rampant egomaniac, because why else would you be on stage and wanting all this attention thrust on you? But I remember saying at the time, it's not really like that, our show. Like, so much of it is designed, the visuals kind of take most of the eye, most of the attention. And there are much more energetic and effective performers on the stage, for example, JF Abraham. And we put the drums down right at the front of the stage as well, so you can watch Wigglesworth. I mean, he's not the kind of, he's not a force of personality behind the kit. He tends to get the job done rather than, you get the odd reaction out of him. But he tends to be a kind of head down, get the job done type drummer. Yeah, so there's a lot of other stuff going on. Mr. B's got all his boxes of tricks and doing all this kind of visual wizardry around. It's not a kind of look at me and marvel on my amazingness. I don't really look up much during a show, and if I do kind of scan the front row, I very quickly go like, whoop, yeah, and go back to just playing whatever I'm doing.
Yeah, because you often also, of course, have the greetings pre-recorded, don't you?
Yeah, even that, I didn't used to speak on stage. I think when we were releasing the last record, because it was a different record and it was more serious, and it didn't feel quite as appropriate to kind of have your tongue quite so firmly wedged in your cheek the whole time. So, I do speak on stage now, but there is still the pre-recorded element, which people still love, and which frequently, out charismas me, which isn't very hard, but I can say, "How are you doing?" to a crowd, and they'll go like, "Yeah, fine." And then if I do, "How are you doing?" they go nuts. So there you go.
We still, obviously, I think I've only ever seen you perform here in Amsterdam. I don't think I've seen you perform in the band perform in the UK. And so for a long time, maybe even still, Joe, my husband, and I, we still say "Dank u wel," because that's what we've heard on your pre-record. Yeah. And do you have them in I assume you have them in every language whenever you tour different countries?
Try to. It's remarkable how little effort you need to make for people to think you've made an effort. Yeah, and even going on holiday, my wife and I would always try and learn a few words, and especially being English, a lot of people would be like, where are you from? Like, London. They'd be like, really? Okay. Yeah. So you always try and learn a few things. I try to learn how to say we're public service broadcasting from South London wherever we go. Don't always get that right, but I think I've got a few down now. Yeah, it makes each gig different when you're on tour across Europe, especially. It's quite a challenge in a good way.
Yeah. And you say that you pointed out that you as a performer are not, maybe you don't really identify maybe as such as a performer, a musician maybe, but in terms of that seizing a stage, do you think that's an
Yeah,
accurate? Yeah.
I think so.
No.
I mean, even musician is a stretch for me because I'm not, I'm self-taught, and we're surrounded, Wrigglesworth, JF Abraham, the entire crew of session players who we have with us on stage frequently, they're all serious players. They all know their stuff. They can all read music for a start, which is a big plus. And I kind of feel like a bit of an outsider slash fraud slash imposter quite a lot of the time. Yeah, but there's one song where I sing, and we've played it a few times live, and it's very not fun. Yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun to perform. I'm always glad once you've done it, but I do really like the song, so I've kind of made my own problems there, really. Write a song that you really like, but don't like to play, but like to hear is odd. Yeah.
That's so interesting to me that you would not describe yourself as a musician. That, yeah, I mean, I understand the logic of that, but yeah, it's interesting because every creative industry has the same thing. That there's a lot of emphasis put on education, I think, and yeah, that's a sort of validating thing. But I mean, of course, you're a musician. You get on stage and you play an instrument and you write
objectively,
songs.
Yeah, subjectively. But I still get that thing that everyone who plays guitar will know what this is, unless they're one of those people who just goes down and plays at 100 decibels. But I still get that thing of going into a guitar shop and they give you a guitar to try a pedal or something, and you just I don't know what I'm going to play. What am I going to play? I end up playing what I played when I was 16 badly, and everyone's probably like, oh god. Yeah, so I still have that kind of that imposter.
That's the other thing I wanted to ask. Were you always playing as a teenager? Was music always your thing?
It clicked from about 13 or 14, and it was hearing Oasis. It just kind of set this kind of explosion off in a teenage mind and made me want to learn the guitar. And that's what started the whole ball rolling. I think I had a keyboard I'd noodled around on at home, and I had learnt the recorder to a very high standard before that. I'd dipped out, really. I think I'd stopped listening to new music at that time as well. I just kind of wasn't really that engaged.
So you weren't playing in a band or anything
from like 14 onwards, yeah. From 14.
Oh, you were, okay. Yeah. Okay. But I assume
many bands.
I assume that public service broadcasting, the concept of it was not in your mind's eye at that point.
No, it was fairly, run-of-the-mill indie stuff, especially in the early days. Played in all sorts of bands at university. I played the drums a bit as well until I knackered my wrists doing that. It was a kind of good grounding in playing badly in bands. It was good grounding, and then it was actually this started off as something for fun. I wasn't thinking it was going to get anywhere. I was just doing it purely to amuse myself and imagining it as a thing that I could have fun doing, and maybe if I managed to drag more of my mates to the pub to watch it, as I've been doing for 10 years, maybe this would be a bit more fun for them as well. That was the idea behind it.
So does that mean that you must have moments, I don't know, maybe you don't, have moments on stage where you kind of look out? I mean, you've played some amazing gigs. Which do you think has been one of the top three for you?
Oh, crikey.
My question was like that you must have had gigs where you look out, you have that moment of looking out, and and do you ever get in touch with that 13, 14-year-old self and say, oh my God, look what happened?
Yeah, there's a few times I can remember. I can remember at Blue Dot. Blue Dot. I think it must have been 2017. It was around, or maybe it's 2018. It's 2018. Blue Dot 2018, and we did go. And I mean, if ever there was a song kind of tailor-made for a festival, a particular festival's crowd, it would be one that was held at Jodrell Bank, and that had a focus on science, and loads of kids there who loved it. And I remember just looking out and seeing just like a forest of arms, you know, up in the air for go, and just people singing along to this weird song that we've concocted, and it was quite overwhelming. And I turned around and Mr. B, you know, he's pressing a million buttons a second, and I was like, get your head up, look out of that, you've got to look at that. Yeah, because I frequently miss these moments. You know, we come off stage and Wigglesworth or Jeff Abraham are like, oh, did you see this? Did you see that? I'm like, no, never, no. What happened? You know. So if I catch a moment like that, I want to make sure other people are seeing it. And I think Mr. B got his head up for the final chorus. But yeah, it was definitely, it made a big impression. And it's quite hard not to get carried away with that and kind of become very emotional and get a bit weepy. So you have to kind of, you know, save that for later, maybe.
Stiff up the lip. Yeah, I remember having a similar thing. I had an amazing speech in a play, and one night, out of nowhere, the audience just stopped the show and applauded. And I was already off stage when a member of the cast had stopped me and went, listen. And I just burst into tears, and I had to go back on about 10 minutes later. So then you're just, oh, no, get back on. Yeah. But yeah, no, but they are magical moments, aren't they? Where you get to sort of celebrate your teenage self and all the dreams that you had.
Yeah, you shouldn't take it for granted, definitely. You know, get bogged down in all the, you know, the minutiae and all the slightly aggravating things that surround certain aspects of it. But yeah, at the end of the day, the performance is I can think of very few gigs that I haven't enjoyed. Very few. There's one or two where I've come off stage and just been like, are they on sleeping pills out there? Or it's like, what's the deal? What day of the week is it? No, it's a Thursday, yeah. It's like, has something happened? But only a couple. And most of the time, it's really fun. And sometimes it's kind of out of this world, transcendent, you know, nothing beats it type fun.
Oh, amazing. Oh, I really hope that, in the near, I think 2020 is a bit of a strange write-off in many ways, but I hope that 2021 lends itself to more tours and gigs.
Yeah, I think we'll all need it. Let's hope we can do it safely.
What are you doing in the meantime? What's going on that people could? I know you just released a new line of merchandise with 3 indie artists. Is that right?
Yeah, we wanted to try and help out, you know, some of the designer community who are struggling, like so many people are, and we just thought, you know, let's come up with 3. Let's kind of give them a much looser brief than normal. You know, normally it's to fit a particular album or fit a particular campaign or whatever. But let's just say to these 3 people we work regularly with, it's Jamie, Luke, and Graham. You know, design us a T-shirt and we'll split the profits and kind of pool it all amongst the artists as well, so they're not kind of competing against each other. And yeah, it seems to have gone down really well. We've got some face masks for that's raising money for the Trussell Trust as well. Yeah, it's nice. One of the things that's definitely helped from the start of lockdown, I think a lot of people have found, you know, helping neighbours, helping people who need help, is that it is one of the most surefire ways to feel better. So, you know, I think as a band, our efforts hopefully during lockdown have been on trying to do that, you know, trying to use our audience and our kind of, you know, our fans to try and raise money for some stuff that we feel strongly about. Yeah.
No, I think it's all come across as really great and creative, and certainly I know, having done a small range of bow ties for you in the past, that it is a very supportive and lots of creative freedom. So I think it's great that you've been able to expand that to include other people. Now, I just saw, before we wrap this up, there's a couple of questions, and one is a huge one here. Can you ask, are you the only person allowed to wear a bow tie in the band?
In theory, yes. Some of the brass lads get, you know, sneak them on stage sometimes. I don't think they're aware of, you know, the diktat on bow ties. Yeah, in theory,
there's a pecking order.
But I mean, I have to be a bit of a wrong 'un to really kind of, you know, give someone a dressing down after a gig. Like, you're not supposed to. I'm the head honcho around here. You know,
beat them round the head with the bow tie.
I kind of prefer it if they worked it out themselves rather than having to be told. But yeah, yeah.
And I saw earlier above, if I just scan above, somebody asked, or there's lots of people saying how many gigs they've loved of yours. How they saw you the first time when you were with the Kaiser Chiefs, sold out the Royal Albert Hall. Please come back to Bexhill. Spitfire. Somebody's saying that when they go guitar shopping, they find that playing Spitfire is a solid choice of song.
Yeah, but to do it properly, you'd have to detune the G to F sharp, and then you're into the world of bother there. Like, it's just so many of my songs, the stuff I've written are in different tunings. That's one of the reasons I get paralyzed. I'm like, oh, I can't. That'll take 10 minutes to put it in E flat major. Oh, I just end up playing Radiohead again. Yeah.
And then somebody else here has asked, how many bow ties do you have? I don't think even I could answer that in terms of the Wool and Water ones.
I don't know. I think I might have 4 or 5 of yours, I think.
I think, yeah, maybe. Around 4 or 5.
Which, thank you very much for those. They're fantastic. I think they're the only ones besides the Mirable one that I've worn for quite some time. Sometimes fans are very nice and, try and buy you bow ties, and I have to kind of say thank you very much, but I've got my own thing going on that front. So yeah. So there's a few more sat around in drawers, but yeah, they don't really see the light of day. So
but they're not the official stage worthy bow ties. No. Yeah.
No.
And of course, most of the ones that you have from me are custom. I think the one you're wearing is pretty much the only one that you have that is available for everyone else. So they're special.
Mm. Well, I need a new one for the new record because things are changing. So yeah, I'll speak to you about
luckily for you, I'm working on my new collection. We should talk. It's going to be quite different because I remember the last one I gave you, which I actually saw before this. I was watching a performance of White Star Liner, and I saw that you were wearing the last one I gave you. I remember you saying, it made me laugh so much. You said, "Oh, this one's a whopper," because it was bigger.
Yeah, it's bigger. It's definitely that does help. I don't know why, but it's easier to get on and off.
The seats at the back as well. Everyone wants to admire the bow tie. But yeah, the next collection I'm working on is more of that kind of traditional butterfly bow tie design. Right. So yeah, we'll have to talk and see if we can work one into the concept of the new album. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this curious conversation. I'm going to let you get back to the rest of your afternoon. And yeah, it was an absolute delight. So this will be available on IGTV for anyone who wants to watch it afterwards. And yeah, it's been awesome. And as I say, I just hope that, for all the the rest of the band, also, for my fellow actors out there, I hope that one way or another, this all works out to be a safe environment to get back to doing all the fun stuff. So yeah. But yeah, have a good rest of your week, and I'm looking forward to finding out when you do solve the recording issue and what the new album's going to be.
Yeah, well, so am I. I'm looking forward to it being finished, definitely. Yep.
Yeah, excellent. All right, lovely. Well, thank you so much. And there's loads of people here waving at you, so I know everyone's really enjoyed it.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I can just see some weird icons going up and down the screen, but hello, everyone. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.